What's going on, guys? So today I'm going to be doing another review, and this time it's of these pretty neat looking headphones. They're the G633s from Logitech. Now, just as a quick little disclaimer, Logitech did send these headphones out for us to review, not paid or anything like that. I thought I would just make that abundantly clear, as I do in every review. Okay, just sort of right off the bat here, these are advertised as being 7.1 surround. Just to clarify that, these are not actually 7.1 surround. They're not true 7.1. The surround sounds part of these headphones is all in software. It's the headphones only have 2 speakers. They don't physically have 7 speakers. So if you're expecting something like that, they just don't. It's kind of sad that they don't actually mention that anywhere in the actual product page. It says 7.1 surround sound gaming, blah blah blah. And honestly, software-based surround emulation is never perfect or good in that regard, and I'll get more in that later. But first up, let's just take a quick look at just the cosmetics of it. They do look nice. They look alright, I reckon. They're fully plastic, but you know, what do you expect? It's a headset. They're pretty comfortable. For the first few hours, you have to sort of wear them in a bit because they are a bit tight this way. They feel like they're clamping on your head a little bit. But once this sort of foam wears in and the little springy bit there wears in, they're quite comfortable. I've worn these for a few hours now. A few hour long gaming session. Actually really noticed them being on my head. They sort of just like mellow in. You don't really notice it. By the way, these are RGB, as you saw before. As far as these buttons go, you have all these G keys up the side here, and there's this little switch. I'll get more into that later. You have these G keys. They're programmable. I actually quite like having these on a headset because I've set that one to pause, play, fast forward, reverse, whatever. Just music controls, which is pretty handy. This volume control, it's quite smooth, but it's very slippery. It would have been nicer if they had used some sort of like a textured plastic or some sort of rubber wheel there or something, because when you can change the volume and everything, but it's just a bit slippery. Sometimes it doesn't really work. This little switch up here, this is the switch between PC and just a normal headphone jack. These headphones do have a built-in amplifier and DAC and everything, so it's pretty much plug and play on a PC. I'll get more into that later. On the side here, you have these little removable covers. In the wireless version, one of these comes off and you can change the battery. You can also get sort of custom or different covers for these to clip on, because it has an LED behind there and they do light up. On the side here, these little pieces, they look like metal, and when you first touch them, they sort of feel like metal. They're not. It's vacuum metallized plastic. So basically what they do is they just like stick the plastic in a vacuum with some metal. They melt the metal and it evaporates or whatever, it turns into gas and goes on there. You can Google it. There's lots of cool videos about it. The headband is adjustable. It's kind of expected. It doesn't tend to sort of like come loose or anything like that. What some people have said about this headset is that when you sit on your head, if you've got a smaller head, I got a big head, so it doesn't bother me. But if you've got a smaller head and you sort of just move your head around, they do fall off sometimes. They're not quite tight enough, but if you got like a big head like me, they kind of fit nice actually. Quickly, just going back to these G keys here. When you're wearing the headset on your head, these are really hard to press. You sort of have to grab the headset like this and sort of like get around it. It's kind of awkward to press them. You can't really just go on the side here like this. Well, I couldn't. It was uncomfortable to do it like that. You sort of had to come around like this, and even then it was a bit awkward. As far as the headband and the ear cups go, they're this sort of fabric. It's sort of like almost like a poly fabric. It's a bit rough, but it feels nice and it doesn't get too sweaty. These are actually completely removable, and I'm pretty sure you can wash them. I don't see why you can't. The top one at the top here can't take that off, so if that gets dirty, you're kind of screwed. And yeah, they're nice and soft. It's not really like a memory foam. It's just like it feels like a closed cell foam. It's very firm. Yeah, it feels nice on your ear. I don't know if you can actually buy replacement ones of these from Logitech. I'll have a look on their website. If I find out, I'll put it in the description, but as of now, I don't think you can even get replacement ones of these. I'm pretty fortunate. One of my friends actually bought one of this exact kind of headset. I can tell you now, the internal build quality isn't that great. I'll get more into that in a moment, but talking about the 7.1 surround, there's only 2 speakers in here, one left, one right. They use what's known as like a baffle system, so the actual space behind the speaker in here, you would expect that to be void space for the speaker to for the driver to use up that space, but These are extremely shallow. They have a baffle that's about 4mm deep, so, you know, like that deep. And they are exhausted. They're exhausted up to here, so all the air behind the speaker gets pushed back into here. Normally baffles, from what I've researched, they're normally used to reduce early reflections with speakers. What I'm guessing what they're doing here is the reason why the baffle comes back around into the ear cup is just to improve bass performance. Now, as far as bass performance goes with these headphones, it's pretty good. They're not like bass cannons like the Tank or the Beats or anything like that, and that's actually a good thing. It gives you sort of more of a natural sounding sound, just with a bit more kick to it when you crank it up nice and high. Now, as far as the 7.1 goes, these definitely aren't 7.1 surround. It's all based in software, and only when you run the headphones at 48 kilohertz. If you run them at 92 or 98 or whatever it is, that doesn't work. The 7.1 software sound, whatever, the whole 7.1 emulation doesn't really work. It basically just adds sort of spatial effects to the different channels. It just makes them sound echoey and kind of quiet, especially with the rear channels. You can't hear, well, I can't hear the difference that they're trying to make between the surround side and the surround rear, when really in real life, if you're using a real 7.1 system, you could easily tell the difference between side and rear because one's beside you, one's behind you. But there's only so much you can do with messing around with sound purely in software without actually physically moving it. When you're running the headset in 7.1 at 48 kilohertz, it just sounds like you've got paper cups over your ears. It's kind of unpleasant. It just sounds weird. It doesn't sound, I don't know, it doesn't sound right. Normally when you listen to stuff at that like, what is it, 40, oh, I can't see it here now, 48 kilohertz, normally it sounds nice and clear, but the audio is just really muddy. It's kind of hard to explain, but it just doesn't sound nice. So the whole time I've been using these, I did try out 7.1, it just didn't work for me. So I switched them to, 92 and 98 kilohertz. I switched them over to 98 kilohertz for the rest of the review when I was testing them out, and they were fine. They just sounded like nice, clean headphones. Yeah, so that's what I was rambling on about. The surround sound function just doesn't work at 98 kilohertz. I don't know why you'd think that it's got more range, it would work better, but apparently it doesn't work at all, which is, yeah, what I experienced. The software, I don't know if it intentionally does this or it's just oversight or some silly oversight or something, but the software actually stops the ability to run these actually in stereo. Now, it says you can choose between spatial stereo and just stereo, but you can't just say, just run them as a normal headset. It just doesn't work like that. The only way I've found to get these to work just as normal headphones, just to see how they actually sound without any sort of like voodoo going on, is to run them through the 3.5mm jack. And then these are a bit hard to drive for some stupid reason off like iPhone or whatever. You have to crank them up pretty loud to get the same sort of decibel rating as if you're using the inbuilt amp. It's kind of annoying, but oh well. Now, as far as the microphone quality goes, let's just take a quick look at the microphone. It's one of these ones that sticks out. It's like, I don't know, Predator's penis or something. And it is on a little boom thingy. You can bend it. Now, when you're using this headset with the built-in DAC here, this microphone sounds like shit. Let me just read off my notes here. There's lots of artifacts in the audio. So it's heavily compressed and there's basically no low end to it. There's no bass. It's all nasally. It just sounds like crap. Now, I'll actually use this headset in a minute when we look at the actual software that you can download for this. It has some EQ stuff, 7.1, things like that. Now, as far as this compression goes, I'm assuming they just didn't change anything between this and the wireless one. They just didn't put the wireless module into this one. Normally that compression is used on wireless headsets. It's to save bandwidth. Normally the actual audio stream to the left and right channels is what's most important, and they sort of just like, you know, leave that one behind. But the thing is, as far as gaming headsets and microphones go, they're always bad. Like, from every single headset I've ever seen, they're just bad. And I don't understand, like, this is a $300-ish headset, right? For about $150, you could buy a good pair of headphones and something like the lav mic I'm using now, or one of those little mod mic things that just sticks on the side. But personally, I just use a lav mic. It gets better audio quality than a boom does. It's right in your mouth, but yeah. Also, the placement of this microphone is in a weird spot. I'm assuming it's sort of up to the side of your face instead of right near your mouth, and I'm assuming they're doing that to sort of reduce wind noise. But as I said, all it gets is just noise, like nasally sounding voice. That's also probably due to their compression as well. Also, because of the odd placement of this microphone, as soon as you notice it, it's right in the corner of your eye, even when you push it back like that. This is actually switched, so when you close that up like that, it will disable the microphone internally. Hits a little switch inside there and turns it off. It sort of sits in your peripheral vision, and once you notice it, yeah, as I said, it's really annoying and just pisses me off. As far as the cables and everything goes, it comes with both a micro USB cable and a 3.5mm cable. That comes with one of these little doodads on there. One thing I kind of don't like, they went with micro USB, which it's a pretty common connector, you know, the PS3, PS4, whatever. Sorry, the PS4 uses it, the Xbox One uses it. But as far as durability goes, it's pretty flimsy compared to something like a mini USB, which was used on the PS3 controller. And for something that's like a headset like this, it's kind of important because there's no real strain relief for the cable or the connector when you plug it in like this. And I'll just show you that now. So here's the cable. It's very small as well. You can actually plug these in upside down and damage that connector. And it's a headset. You know, it gets thrown around or whatever. So when you plug it in, it's kind of hard to plug in as well. There isn't much strain relief on there. The actual big block connector helps, but say if you used a different cable, which a lot of I did quickly just check some other reviews, just any comments I might have missed or whatever, and they're all saying, oh, well, you can use other cables and stuff. But if you use another cable, this block, most cables don't have this block on there, and that's acting as sort of like a very half-assed sort of strain relief going on there, but there's a lot of pressure on that connector, and it's only surface mount, so after a while that could be damaged. It's just something that I come across sometimes with micro USB. Micro USB is good, but in applications where it's under a lot of stress and everything, I'd prefer to use something like mini USB, even though it doesn't look as cool. As far as the mini USB cable, the micro USB cable goes, it's about, I think it's about 2.5 meters. It doesn't actually say it anywhere on the box, but it's very long. It's a nice rigid cable. The only comment I have about it is it's a bit too rigid, which is a bit funny thing to say, but when it's plugged into the headset, it sort of gets in the way sometimes. It's a bit funny. One other thing is you can't have the LEDs on at the same time as sort of using the 3.5 unless you have this plugged into a PC and it's turned on and the software's controlling the LEDs. But I tried plugging this into just a USB battery bank and it does nothing. So the LEDs are only really good when you're using the wired connection, or if you shell out the extra $50 and get the wireless one. As far as the actual 3.5mm cable goes, it just comes with this little sort of like a breakout box almost on the end here. Let me just zoom in on that one. Comes with one of these little doodads, has a skip button, works with the iPhone. The microphone on here doesn't. As far as the pass-through to the actual Predator penis boom mic thing they've got going on. It comes with all, it's average things. It comes with the volume control, mute, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This headset, I have not been able to get it to work on either the PS4 or Xbox One as far as the microphone goes. The actual headphone is fine, but the microphone just doesn't work. I think it's up to, because the DAC in here, which ends up controlling the DAC and amplifier, the op amp or whatever, in here that ends up powering the microphone and actual speakers, isn't powerful enough. I've tried it numerous times and it just doesn't work. Again, going back to that same thing, it's a $300 headset. It should just work with what it's advertised to work with. And I'm a bit disappointed about that. Now, as I mentioned before, I actually have a friend who bought this same headset. So, me being me, I thought I'd take a peek inside. And internal build qualities, for a $300 headset, it's sad. What I mean by that, mostly it's okay. It's all together. The internal build quality, as far as the soldering goes on the through-hole components, they look like they've been done with hand. There's too much solder on them. They're not nice and clean and neat. There's flux everywhere, and it's kind of gross. Also, there's no interconnects between the major components. So, for example, the actual speaker driver, As mentioned before, it's in a baffle, but the actual speaker driver, it just uses the two thin copper wires going from the speaker to the actual PCB, and it's just got some, it looks almost like glob top epoxy fill that you see glob tops made out of. It looks like that sort of stuff just glopped on top of the solder joint. There's no like interconnect there. You would think with something like this, you know, you send it back for warranty. For them to actually service it, it would be much easier and quicker and cheaper to just undo the screws, pull the entire ear module out, the speaker module, the driver module, and plug in a new one. But no, it's underneath epoxy and crap, and it's kind of gross. It just feels cheap. That's my main comment about the internal build quality, is it just feels cheap. Much like the other Logitech product I reviewed a while ago, the keyboard, it just seems like it's pandering more to 12-year-olds than actual people that will actually use it. You know, like it's all looks and not very much function. It's form over function in a way. Okay, so here we are in the Logitech software, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be recording this entire thing using the built-in little predator penis microphone thing off the G633. And here's the pretty picture of the G633. Now, let's just go through all the functions we have here. There isn't a whole lot. It's not as complicated as the Logitech keyboard that I reviewed quite some time ago. So these are the G keys. As you can see, I've set these play, pause, next track, previous track, and that one doesn't do anything. You can set these to do pretty much whatever you want from what I can tell. So if we go here, we can go assign new commands. You can go increase bass, whatever, multi-key. And yeah, they're a bit hard to sort of, you have to sort of turn your head and press the button and hold it. It's a bit wonky, but it works. It's is quite handy. Say if I'm listening to music and playing a game. My keyboard doesn't have the media controls, so I can just change the song like that, and it works quite well. You can have different presets and stuff, obviously. Pretty basic as far as like what you can actually do, but yeah, they work, and it works quite well. Now here is the lighting system thing. It's just to control the RGB effects of the side here and there, and a little bit in the middle there where I'm pointing. You can turn off the illumination for the logo, and this is real time, so when I'm doing this, it's actually doing it on the headset as well. All sides here, so you got different zones. You can change the different effects. You can go breathing effect. So let's make it red. So what it does is it breathes at whatever rate you set it. So if I turn it really fast, it's like, oh my god, I'm running so fast, blah blah blah. Or I turn it back down, but I prefer looking at color cycles. And you can also set the lighting sleep timer. Not too sure how that actually works. It's maybe when there's no sound playing or something. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of option here to have sound activated lighting. That'd be kind of cool. So like if there's like a big bassy sound, it'd be like red, or you know, or there's like strobing sort of sound effects, whatever, like gunshots, flash or whatever. It'd be kind of cool. Or make it say flash up red. You wouldn't be able to see it that much while you're playing. I've played this in the dark and everything, and I haven't really noticed these being very bright at full brightness, which is kind of good. They should have shoot the light out behind you. But it would be cool to have it sort of like hook into a game or something where it can make them flash red when you get shot or when you fall, like health or something. Like what some keyboards can do and things like that. Some mice as well can do that as well. And you can change it. I believe this software works with both their keyboards and their mice. Here you have the EQ settings. I personally prefer to listen to everything as flat as possible, just because it's just sort of how the sound's meant to sound. Even though the headphones, the speakers themselves will affect the, I think audio fools call it color or some shit. I don't know. It'll affect the sort of the sound, but I still prefer to just leave it flat and let it do its thing. Here's side tone. I'm not too sure what that's about. There isn't that much the help guide and everything doesn't have that much information about what that actually means. It does make the microphone sound a bit like this, even worse than what it sounds like. So I'm just going to turn that back down. Microphone volume, pretty self-explanatory. The volume on the side here and volume on the back as well. They aren't really one-to-one. That says 31, but I think in Windows it says like, what's it say? 32. So, it's not exactly hooked properly into the actual Windows Sound Manager. Also, there's a info about down here about running at 96 kilohertz or 48. Now, here's the surround sound, and it gives you one of those sort of clinical sound examples, or like the promo examples, sales pitch examples they use in for Dolby and all that sort of stuff. Real world doesn't sound as good as what it does here. It's sort of like a cherry picked sort of example of what it sounds like. You can choose between DTS or you can choose between Dolby Digital. DTS generally just has more bass in it, from what I can tell. And you can change your stereo mode. As I mentioned before, you can't actually make it run pure stereo when you're running through USB, which is a bit sad. It would have been nice to be able to run it in, just say run in stereo like you can with pretty much every other sort of audio system out there. Like my surround receiver, my Pioneer surround receiver can do it. I think even my TV can do it. I think it supports 5.1, has its own audio processor. Yeah, I've been running this sort of in stereo wide. It just sounds a bit nicer. You can choose between DTS 7.1. That just basically just changes the effects. It's making the sound a bit different, so it's like having it in a different room. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do that. Here you can go and you can change the actual volume for each channel. This is actually generally a little bit quieter as well. The sound coming out of the headset is a bit quieter, and you can turn down your rear channels and whatever, but again, it doesn't really run it in true stereo. And then here you can go to settings and stuff, and to be quiet, you probably hear that it has a hum as well. That was the problem I was also having with the Xbox headset, so it's got some sort of grounding issue. It's got some noise there, but yeah, general software settings, this is pretty much just redundant or just silly. Enable enhanced graphics, okay. You can actually update the firmware for the headset, which is kind of cool. I don't think it changes any sort of features. This is the firmware it came with, so yeah, I haven't been able to experience any sort of what their updates are like, or if they do any updates at all. That's about it for the software, and it's hopefully a pretty good example of what the actual microphone sounds like. It has a fairly good pickup. It's a bit far from my face right now, but it's not as it's closer than what my lav mic is to my face or to my mouth where I'm speaking. It does sound. It has a lot of artifacts and stuff when you really crank it up. When you record it and really crank it up, and I believe that's still getting pushed through. I've tried recording this in Audacity, just pure whatever it comes out as, and it still sounded bad. I don't know why they're doing that sort of compression when it's just a headset. I believe all this 7.1 emulation processing is done on the computer, not actually in the headset. If it was done in the headset, then it'll allow you to allow that on, say, with a 3.5mm headphone jack, whatever, when you're using it without USB. So yeah, that's about it for the software side of things. Back to the studio, or the table right next to me. Yeah, so that's a bit rambly review. Hopefully I can edit that all together into something that's comprehensible. Comprehensible? I don't know. I'm not good with the words and stuff, Yeah, so sort of final thoughts on this. Should you buy one? Honestly, I wouldn't. These, at best, sort of what I would pay for them, maybe 150 Australian dollars, which is I don't know, 60 something US. They look nice in pictures. It looks nice here on the camera when I'm looking through it, but just in person, it's just, I don't know, it's cheap feeling. It's for $300, I'd expect something a lot better. Not something like Audio-Technica or whatever like that, some big brand of headphones. I'd expect them to be a little bit cheaper because they have to incorporate all these other features and things. I don't know, it's just not quite there. So, as I mentioned, honestly, I just would not recommend buying these. Buy a pair of headphones and a good mic and one of these. This is just a splitter. It just so you can plug your headphones and your microphone into that, and then plug that into the controller or whatever you're using it with. The fact that I can't get the actual microphone to work on the Xbox or PS4, even though it's advertised as working with them, is a bit weird, especially seeing as these have been out for quite some time. It could have gone through some revisions, but it just hasn't. And it's just a general, and the microphone quality is, I don't know. Thanks again to Logitech for sending these out. It's kind of a shame the way the review turned out, but yeah, what you can do. Anyway, until next time, see ya.